Tonight, we will be making lime tequila chicken tortilla soup. It's just me tonight, Chef Aaron, that's filming, making, preparing everything all at once. So this video is going to be shot as a oneer or one time. There will be flubs. There will be a lot of shaky camera. I apologize. I'll do my best. But let's start off with ingredients. First off, chicken, obviously. And since it is a tequila soup, don't cheap out. Get the good tequila. I go for Casamigos. This little guy is about $4, $3 to $4 for this little shot. If you already have this brand on hand, that's great. I personally don't. I just cook with it for this specific item, for the specific recipe. It's a very good tequila. I prefer the sober over, say, the gold or whatever. It's just a cleaner flavor. If you can find fire roasted corn, it's preferred over whole kernel or cut corn. Either way, you know, that's the next ingredient. Your diced green chilies, I do mild. I have an issue with how much heat I can take. However, this is where it comes into however you want it. If you want it super hot, if you're used to the really hot stuff, then go for the hotter. I always go fire roasted organic tomatoes in a can. Anytime you go tomatoes in a can, go organic if you can, if it's possible. It gives you a much better taste. So we got 2 large cans of the diced fire roasted. Next up, we have 1 golden hominy and 1 white hominy. These are both 15-ounce cans. We have black-eyed peas, followed by black beans, and those are both 15-ounce cans. And of course, we got the lime juice for the lime part. I will also be adding chicken stock and veggie stock as well. I use the Better Than Bouillon brand. It works better than just straight bouillon cubes, less salt, and I think it tastes better too. So, that's my main ingredients. Obviously, I've got a ton of seasonings. Sorry for the finger in the shot. And let's get started. First off, since I don't have fire roasted corn, I gotta make my own, which means I gotta take my kernel corn and cook the snot out of it. So, let's empty it into a colander, rinse it clean, and then cook the heck out of it. And while that's going, we'll cut up our chicken. And while that's going, while we put the chicken in there, then our seasonings, then we can open our tons of cans. So, let's get our prep station ready. So, we have our corn in our pot. It's all drained, all rinsed. Cut corn would probably be better than whole kernel corn. However, what we have will be sufficient. If this is all you can find, it'll work. Try to drain it as much water as you possibly can. Add a tiny bit of olive oil to the pot. Quantities will be in the description below. However, method is always in the video, and that's the point of making these videos in the first place. So, you hear the pops and sizzles? That's the water. What we want to do is get rid of all of that water, and the best way to do it, turn it up to high and let it go until it gets nice and hot. We'll stir it as needed and basically cook it. So I am going to continue with that, and I'll be back when we've actually got it cooking. Alright, so the corn is cooking pretty nicely, but let's not waste time here, and let's continue with our preparation. So, we've got chicken breasts and a little bit of tenders today. You can use chicken thighs if you want. Either way, whatever chicken you want to use. If you prefer white meat over dark meat, that's perfectly fine. Or dark meat over white meat. Either way, fine with me. Cut it into bite-sized pieces. Alright, once your corn starts to get a little roasted looking like this, turn down your heat to about medium-high or so. Don't have it at full blast, it will in fact burn. And you can kind of notice my pot's getting a little brown. That's alright. It truly hasn't started to burn yet. So, we're going to keep this up a little bit longer. I'm going to turn it down to about halfway, just so that we can continue to cook and not burn. Alright, so mine got a little dark on the bottom. I think it'll be okay. It shouldn't emit a burned flavor. If yours is truly black, time to clean out the pan and start anew. Always start with fire roasted if possible, but if you gotta roast your own, it's not too hard. You might want to do it in a separate pan and not the pot that you were going to use for your entire soup. Alright, my chicken is all diced up, so time to add it. My fire's off, so it shouldn't sizzle too much. I'll get it all out there. Sorry, I am doing this one-handed here. And toss it in the sink. Mix it about. And it's time to add our seasonings. So, I will be back when I've got all the seasonings laid out, and we can start to add. Seasonings for the chicken will be minced lime peel, my mix, there's a recipe for that one in a separate video, lime juice, fresh grains of paradise or just pepper, bay leaves, ground coriander, savory, marjoram, and dried chives. Since I'm doing this all by myself, I will try to put in certain ingredients that I know that I can. So let me open up everything and we'll go from there. Okay, let's start off with some minced lime peel. If you have fresh lime zest, that would work just fine too. We're just looking to add a little bit of looking to add a little bit of lime to it in a couple of different ways. My mix, there's a recipe for that one in another video, and a very good healthy portion of that. That's your base, it adds your body, and gives a dang good flavor. Alright, next up is lime juice. Mine does not have a drip stop, it's just a pour, so I'm going to try to not put too much in. If you want to not pour it, put your finger into, a clean finger, into the bottle, and you can be able to not have it pour out on you. I go for 2 bay leaves. I think it does add some flavor. Now, ground coriander. This adds a nice sweetness to it all, and there's nothing wrong with adding a decent amount. Savory. This adds a different component to it, and I think it's really good in there. And of course, a little bit of marjoram. Always put some marjoram with your chicken. Tastes really good. And then a little bit of dried chives. If you have fresh chives, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that they're snipped nice and small. So, we're going to add a little bit of, sorry for the arm, olive oil as well. Yeah, not too much. Maybe a tablespoon at the most. Alright, we're going to mix this all up, and then we're going to start the fire, and we're going to start it up on medium-high, and we're going to get this stuff cooking. And while this is cooking, I'm going to clear off all the spices, and then we're going to open up our cans, drain out the juice, rinse them as much as you can, except for the tomatoes. Do not rinse the tomatoes. You just want to dump those in as is. But the hominy, the black beans, and all the other stuff, yeah, we're going to rinse it all out. So, going to get that going, and we'll be back when everything's ready. Make a slight correction here. We're going to turn it up to about medium-high instead of medium, and we're going to put a cover on so it can cook, and we can get it done faster. Alright, our chicken is most of the way cooked through. We're going to take our tequila. Only use half a shot here. All we're going to do, is deglaze. There is plenty of liquid in the pan already, but we're going to deglaze a little bit anyways. Add in about half of it. Give it a good stir. You want that flavor of the tequila, but you don't want the alcohol, or at least not that much. Now, we're going to let this cook a little bit longer, but because we don't want the chicken to overcook, it's time to add our vegetables. So, let's add in our tomatoes. I'll save the can here. We haven't quite gotten all the juice out of it, but that's alright. You don't need to rinse the chilies either. I didn't make that one clear in the previous part. So you don't rinse the chilies nor the tomatoes. Remember, save those cans. Get out as much as you possibly are able to, but save those cans. Alright, I am going to grab my colander. Now, white hominy, golden hominy, black-eyed peas, and black beans. We have a beautiful, colorful mix here. That added with the red of the tomatoes, and it's a wonderful mix of color. And anytime you serve food, you want as many colors as you possibly can in any of your dishes. So, I'm going to get the rest of this stuff in here, give it a good stir, put it back on the fire, put a lid on it, and I'm going to say start it off on half power or half heat, and let's get our stock ready. Alright, so we're on to the stock. I use this better than bouillon stuff. Start with chicken and then a little bit of veggie. Go for 1 teaspoon of veggie and about 1 3/4 tablespoons or 2/3 of the chicken. Put it all into a container, measure, and then add in up to 2 cups of water, hot water, the hottest you can get, and then mix it all about. Try to get all the lumps out of the bottom. If you don't get all the lumps, it's okay. It will take care of itself in the pot. Now also try to get the spoon. You see there's stuff on the back. Try to get all that stuff off the back. Kind of give it a swirl around. And don't worry if you don't get it all the first time, because as you can tell, this is rather concentrated. So, we're going to pour it in. As you can see, we have a lot, there we go, have a lot of how would you call that? Unused base. So we're going to refill it to another 2 cups. We're going to looking at a total of 7 cups, 6 to 7 cups of water here. That should make our stock. And depending upon how big your pot is, you should be able to fit it. I'm going to be back with more water, and we're going to continue. Alright, round 2, or the second set of cup here. And it's looking pretty normal. So let's go ahead and dump it all in there. Don't worry about the extra bits of base. It will definitely take care of itself in there. So, we have 1 more set of cups. What we're going to do is we're going to fill up and make sure we get along the sides, and then once we've gotten all the sides, we're going to drizzle the water all around the can as well, so we get all the goodness out of there, and then pour it in to our cup. And we'll do the same thing with this cup, or this can, and then finally do the same thing with the chili can. And once we've achieved all that stuff, I will be back. So, I have put a little bit of water all around the sides. We've gotten all the base. Done the same thing with these cans. You can see they're nice and clean now. And we still have just a little bit under the amount of water that we need. So I'm going to fill it up from the tap, pour it all into my pot, and give the pot a really good stir. And then we've got it around 3/4 or so, 3/4 high, and put our lid on, and then we'll be back when we've got a good simmer. Alright, while we're getting it up to a simmer here, we're going to add in a couple more seasonings to our stock, give it some more body, some more flavor, some more taste. So we're going to add in some more my mix. Oops, sorry. There we go. I'm going to add in some more lime peel. Not as much this time, just need some. I'm going to add in some more ground coriander. We're going to add in some more chives. And we're going to add in, hold on a sec. Sorry about that. Had to unscrew the lid on the lime juice. We're going to add some more lime juice. Remember, if you have just a pour spout, you can put your finger, clean finger, over the end and it won't dump. Or, if you're needing to actually measure, just put it into a teaspoon and do it that way. So, we're going to stir all of this stuff about. And we're going to put the cover back on and let it come to a real simmer. Alright, I'll see you guys. Okay, so I've made up about 2 cups more chicken broth here. As I'm looking at my pot, it seems to be a little thick with vegetables and meat and that kind of stuff. So I need more broth. So I will make that note in the description so that if you follow the description's recipe, you guys will be on point with the end product here. So we're up to 8 cups of stock. One of it is veggie. All the others are chicken. And that looks more like a hearty soup than a chili or a stew. If you want to go even thinner yet, you can. I prefer a nice hearty soup, especially on a really cold day like it is right now here. So I'm going to let this go for another 20 minutes or so. And I'll be back when we're ready to add the last little bits of stuff. Alright, once you're at a simmer, turn it down to low. Leave the lid slightly ajar, kind of how mine is, and let it go for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes at least. You can let it go up to an hour, but I would say no more than an hour. In the meantime, you can get ready your final ingredients, which will be small diced white corn tortillas. You can use any color corn tortilla if you want. I prefer the white ones. It doesn't add any extra color that I don't want. Alright, so we're about 20 minutes we've been simmering here. Sorry if you're hearing some background noise. We have a cat that's eating right here too. It's time now to, if you can find them, remove the bay leaves. I can see one right away, so I'm going to remove one. There's another one somewhere floating around in here. If you can see it readily, great. If not, warn your, oop, I think we found it. Warn your guests that there might be a bay leaf missing. However, we got both of ours, so that's great. Okay, now we're on to the final seasonings. Our second round of seasoning that we added should have given the soup the body and the fullness that we're looking for. However, there's a couple items that we don't want to add until 30 minutes before we're ready to serve. And one is something called Marjoram lime powder. You get it from the Savory spice shop. You can find it online if you need to, if you're not in Colorado. And you don't need very much of this stuff. Just a little bit will do. And it adds a great lime flavor to it without adding any more peels or juice or whatever. Next up is a sweet smoked Spanish paprika. I save this stuff for meals like this where it would come through the taste. Again, you don't need much of this, more than the lime powder obviously, because it is paprika. So a good healthy dosage, because you want to make it to where you can taste it, but not enough where it overpowers. And it can tend to overpower too. Last up, we want a little bit of flavor of that tequila, but we don't want to add enough that we're trying to drunken people here. Obviously, half a shot in a giant pot is not all that much. We won't add that much alcohol anyways. So we have a little bit above a half a shot left. So all we're going to do is drizzle in maybe an ounce at the most. Not even an ounce. I take that back. Probably like a teaspoon or two. Well, either way, the amount will be in the description once I finally figure out what it is. And give that a good stir. Let those flavors incorporate for another good 15-20 minutes. Then we'll add in our tortillas to thicken our soup. And it will be time to serve. I'll be back when it's time to add in the tortilla. Alright, so we've had the pot on for quite a while now. We've added our last minute seasonings. We've allowed those to incorporate throughout the soup. It smells delicious in here. And it's time to thicken a little bit here. I've chopped up 4 6-inch white corn tortillas, pretty small. You don't need to chop it up insanely small, but small enough that they can actually break up. So, I'm going to start off with a small handful at a time. It's about 1/3 of a cup at the most, maybe 1/4 cup. Let's go for a little bit more. So we're going to go for about 1/3 of a cup. Give it a good stir. And the corn tortilla will break down a little bit here and there, and it will thicken the soup. Also adds another component of corn and filler, I guess, to the soup. Alright, we're going to let this go for a little bit longer. And actually we're going to add another 1/4 of a cup. I think we're going to need that much. So we're looking at, let's go for 2/3 of a cup total. There we go. That's about 2/3 of a cup. So we're going to start there. And we'll let this thicken. Put our cover back on the jar, so in case it boils over. I've got it turned to, well, mine's at 3, but, you know, medium low, somewhere in there. And we'll come back when we're at a simmer again. Okay, so 2/3 of a cup is pretty good. We're thicker than we were. Whoops, sorry. We're thicker than we were. And that's what we're looking for. But we're not so thick that you can barely stir it. So I'm going to add in just a pinch more. there. So what we're looking at here is 2 white corn tortillas, 6 inchers. I will have that down in the description. So 4 I don't think is needed unless you had a thinner soup. If you had a soup that was much thinner than this, you know, and you wanted it to stretch further, then I would say, you know, go ahead and thicken it up a little bit more than this. Maybe 3 tortillas as opposed to the 2. Maybe even 4 if you're really stretching your soup out. I prefer to have a thicker soup, get more hearty that way, more vegetables, more meat per serving, and not so much of the broth. So I'm going to let this sit for another, oops, sorry about that. I'm going to let this sit for another couple of minutes with the lid ajar, and just for that last little bit of tortilla to kind of soak in there, and then we are ready to serve. And serving would be best with, well, I would keep some that sweet smoked Spanish paprika on hand, a bit more of the lime juice, and then you can't go wrong with a little bit of Corona, especially for what we've got here. Or if you're really feeling adventurous, go for some tequila. And I would suggest to go with the same type of tequila that we've already used. Mixing your tequilas is not wise. Alright, this has been Cutting Out the Crap, and we are out.